Welcome everybody to the Monday Night Tours. We are your guides on this journey through the Monday Night Wars. I am Josh Kaiser, and I am joined today by Kyle Hoagland. How's it going, buddy?
It's going all right. Hope everyone had a fun and safe St. Patty's Day. I know we record early, so I'm going to assume that I had a great time hanging out with some friends and drinking some beers. And, you know, being the 33-year-old that I am, I feel like my enjoyment of this holiday kind of dwindles as the years go by. So I know you're a newly wedded person, so maybe you've got a couple more years of excitement in this holiday, but it's never been something that I really care to celebrate.
I mean, I'm planning on being the Belfast Bruiser. I got my half leather sleeve jacket. I got my half, Legion of Doom arm pads. I've got my mullet, my mustache ready. I am ready to do it like true Irishman.
I think I'll be just Hornswoggle, and I'll just be hiding under the ring.
But you won't be Hornswoggle this week. You can't be hiding away from the Monday Night Wars, Kyle, because it is March 18th, 1996. We have Nitro, we have a Raw, and we have a lot to talk about today. And let's just jump right into it. It's Nitro, Kyle. It's live, and it's a little different of an opening because it opens up with Giant and Loch Ness kind of attacking each other. Commentary doesn't have their headsets on. They're confused. I don't know if that was by design or not. And apparently Loch Ness and Lex Luger are supposed to have a match here, but the Giant is just he needs to get his anger, his frustration out on Loch Ness, apparently.
Well, I mean, last week, Loch Ness accidentally hit the Giant during the most convoluted, quoting you, convoluted as fuck match that we've ever heard of, a 6-man strap lumberjack tornado match,
a 6-man double strap, lumberjack.
Don't forget
match.
lumberjacks. Yeah, so we had that, and maybe it's also because they lost the canned footage of the Chattanooga skyline, so maybe they had to feed it to something.
So it is supposed to be Luger and Loch Ness, Kyle, and what does Lex Luger do? He comes out posing. There's pyros. He's got, of course, his television championship. He's got his tag team championship in hand. He heads down to the ring. He tells Randy Anderson, if that fat fuck's not getting in here, start that 10 count.
Which, by the way, I don't think you're supposed to do. I think you can't start a 10 count until both are in the ring, I thought.
I have two words for you. Randy Anderson. I would have also accepted Nick Patrick here, but they're just going to do whatever the fuck they want because that's WCW refereeing at its finest here in the mid-90s.
I feel like the only person we can rely on is Mark Curtis, rest his soul.
Naturally, Randy Anderson's going to get a count to the 10. Loch Ness is going to lose, I think, his first match as a WCW competitor. So congratulations, Lex Luger could not be happier with himself. He's jumping around, he's cheering.
Dude, I kind of love this goofball Lex Luger. I actually, might be one of the more enjoying parts of Lex that he actually
has a personality.
Exactly, and it's just like, dude, it kind of reminds me of. Do you remember like when Kurt Angle would do stuff like that, with the ring with his gold medals, and no matter how he won, whether it was like a DQ or a count out or the guy never showed up, but as soon as he was declared the winner, he would always jump up in the air and like celebrate and just kind of like wave to the crowd like he pulled off some like mirror, he won the gold medal again.
When you're in a professional level like this, every win matters. You shouldn't be taking even the small ones. It doesn't matter who you're beating, whether it's Johnny Come Lately or it's Loch Ness in this case. You should always celebrate all the victories. So I don't blame him for feeling that way.
And Bobby Heenan did say, "Hey man, you're not paid for the minutes. You're paid for the wins."
That's true.
So if anything, Lex Luger just got a big payday.
Jimmy Hart's in the ring, Kyle, and Lex kicks him out of the ring, which I thought was a little interesting. And Bischoff wants an explanation. What's going on? Is there a rift between Jimmy and Lex? What's the deal here? And he comes back and says,
according to Bischoff, there always has to be a rift somewhere.
My favorite was like Bischoff says, I want to know what I want Jimmy to explain himself, and Heenan goes, Jimmy can't explain it because he's not on commentary, which just made me laugh because it's like, well, I guess it's true.
I actually have a note here for not just Heenan, but I think Mongo says something, and I know Lawler says something where it's so obvious that it's actually hilarious. And that was one of the things I had on here was that Bischoff just saying some canned response, and then Heenan just throwing in some hard truths.
But that said, Lex gets on commentary, Kyle. He says he's on a roll, which, of course,
I mean that's at this point that's a drink when someone says that word.
Yeah, no kidding. He said this is the shortest win in history of wrestling. I'd have to look back, but I feel like a 10 count win is not going to be the shortest win in history. But
Well, I mean, I can already tell you Diesel beating Backlund was less than 10 seconds.
And of course, now Kyle, we do see the commentary booth. Pepe is a red, white, and blue cowboy. Again, they're just giving him whatever the fuck costume they can find at this point. And they say something about a standby match coming up. Did you catch that?
Yeah, they said that since that match didn't happen, they had another match kind of ready in case. Like, I don't know, like because the match went so quickly, they're like, hey, we have this extra match that if we had the time to throw in during our hour, we could. How convenient.
Right.
So, yeah, that was, I think once again, it's because you had a 10-second match to start off the night.
Right. Well, that's good to know, Kyle. And by the way, we are live from Chattanooga, Tennessee. This was just a weird, totally. I know. I guess they wanted to try something different this time. Start with that heat between the Giant and Loch Ness. What'd you think about this? Kind of variation from their standard openings.
I mean, I guess my thing is it doesn't fit their MO. I'm not saying I'm against it. It's just one thing about WCW that I always give it credit for, where it lacks in presentation and maybe structure in the ring. And like maybe the actual wrestling storyline, they do a good job of being a TV show and keeping structure, where you're used to seeing the same thing, the same graphic coming in, the fireworks coming out. Sometimes you get the skyline if it's a
live and the whole
Right. Whereas live as live can be. Here's Bischoff and Mongo Pepe and Heenan. Like they talk a little bit about what happened last week. I don't know what's the most talked about pay-per-view of all time, which apparently is Uncensored. It's the things that all the tropes that we're used to and sometimes laugh at. We got none of that.
No, and it was just kind of caught me off guard. It's not necessarily, like you said, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but when you're so used to it done one way, it just feels out of place.
Right, and the thing is, we're used to that with Raw, where sometimes they'll go to Vince and Lawler right afterwards. Sometimes they go right to the ring. Sometimes they don't even have the promo at the start. Like that, I'm used to it being like, depending on what mood they want to set at the beginning, they might change it up from time to time to set a tempo. Whereas here, it's almost always the exact same 5 minutes every Nitro. So yeah, it was strange. Once again, not saying it was bad, but definitely something I noticed as well.
Following this up, we're going to get Tony Schiavone making his return to Nitro, and he's here with the Mega Powers, Kyle. And it's
first of all, I had to look it up and find out if the Mega Powers was a trademark, because I'm sitting here being like, I'm pretty sure they were asking for a cease and desist letter with how much Macho Man was rocking Mega and Power on his sleeves,
right? And
Tony Schiavone going out there and saying it. I know that Mean Gene's out. I guess he's got the flu or something like that.
I think bronchitis or something. They do mention it. At first, they don't say anything here, but then later on, they do mention why Schiavone's here.
Why Schiavone was pulled out of his coffin or whatever the hell happened. But yeah, the whole Mega Powers thing I was just very surprised that they were using that, because they didn't when they've tagged and teamed plenty of times since they've been in WCW, and I think they were called like the Maniacs or like the Monster Maniacs when they came into WCW. So they were not the Mega Powers, and so that's why I'm curious as to why they decided to throw in the Mega Powers moniker now. I tried looking it up. It looks like it is a trademark of the WWE, but then again, WWE owns WCW now, so
right at this point,
it's hard to know. It's convoluted at this point.
Right. Apparently, Kyle, over the weekend on Saturday night, it was announced that Macho Man is going to join Hogan at Uncensored. So now you get this 4-tiered cage match, and now it's in the Mega Powers versus people. So
I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you could just start adding people into sanctioned matches, which I'll talk about that later. Are we going to talk later about we actually get an uncensored promo?
Yes,
during the show.
I believe we will.
All right. I'll save it for that.
Okay. So it's going to be Macho Mania and Hulkamania teaming up, Kyle. There's going to be no titles on the line, so we've learned something else about this match.
No stinking titles, quoting Hogan.
And Hogan also says he doesn't care what comes out of the dungeon. And then I had to laugh, Kyle, because Hogan goes, "What it is what it is," which it's like Macho Man cannot have his own line ever because Hogan just takes it all.
And he's still doing it, and they both gave a ooh yeah at the end too. So at this point, it might as well just be shared.
Then we're going to have what you can consider, I guess, our opening bout. It's Public Enemy versus the Steiner Brothers. I had to laugh because, of course, Public Enemy, they bring the tables out, Kyle. You know, they're all about the tables. And they bring out a table, and they they set it just outside the apron. And at one point, Scott Steiner just press slams Rocco in the ring, and he like rolls out of the apron and onto the table.
Well, and later on, same thing happens with Rick Steiner, where he gets hit and he gets thrown out of the ring and lands on the table, and it didn't break. And I'm like, oh my god, like wouldn't that suck if like the big spot was just ruined because Rick was rolling out of the ring, breaks the table. So yeah, that table was rolled all over on during this match, and it held its own.
It held its up. But breaking news before we get anywhere: Dennis Rodman suspended 6 games for a headbutt. Where else would you hear it first but WCW Nitro?
And they also make a point of letting us know that shit 4 times during the show.
Yeah, they did. And then they said, well, maybe Rodman will be at Uncensored because headbutts are allowed there. Spoiler alert, he is not at Uncensored. So, but
it's not like we're not going to see Rodman at all in WCW.
Rodman, it's amazing. Yeah, we'll save that for another time. It's funny how these celebrities make their way in here down the line. Eventually, I have to laugh, actually, before the finish of this match. Rocco gets murdered many times in this match. Like, I feel like he took some nasty spills. Like, at one point, he goes for, like, a top rope crossbody, and I think Rick was supposed to catch him and power slam him, and he kind of botches it. And then later, Rocco goes for a moonsault off the rope, and Scott Steiner, like, doesn't catch him like he's supposed to. It was kind of ugly for Rocco. I really thought at one point he was going to get hurt.
I think that's what happens when Rocco Rock the Public Enemy actually tries to do a wrestling match. It's not their bag.
Right. And they start speculating, Kyle, that the Road Warriors took out the Nasty Boys last week. Did you catch that? Because I thought it was basically implied that the Steiners took out the Nasty Boys.
I think they just created a scenario where either one could have been responsible. I think they did mention also that it's also possible that the Steiners did it. So it's kind of hard to say, but yes, they did throw in the Road Warriors as possible, persons of interest as far as who mugged the Nasty Boys in the back.
And they do let you know the Nasty Boys will be in action tonight against the Road Warriors, which is, I feel like it should have been the other way around. The Nasty Boys should have been wrestling Steiners, but whatever.
Don't you think it should be easy enough just to ask the Nasty Boys, hey, who attacked you? Because I know they said that, and Bischoff was like, yeah, we tried asking them, and they wouldn't talk to us. Like, well, that just seems stupid.
Right.
Hey, who attacked you? It was the Steiners, or it was the Road Warriors. Oh, all right, cool. We'll let everyone know. Instead, we're sitting here like, who attacked the Nasty Boys? And what's going to happen is they're not going to reveal it. It's not going to matter, and they're just going to drop it. So What was the point?
Exactly. It was just a way to get to bring in the Steiner brothers without really caring about it. The match is going to end eventually, Kyle. Rick Steiner's going to be on the table. Scott's going to move him just out of the way, and which leaves Rocco to senton and break the table.
Take another bump.
Yep. And there's going to be a top rope bulldog on Johnny Grunge. I think his name's Johnny Grunge, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. That's the 3 count. I gave it a 1 3/4. It was okay. Like I said, I thought Rocco almost died in a few sloppy moments. Not nearly as good as Steiner's last match with the Road Warriors the week before.
I gave it a 1 3/4 as well. I just found it funny that the first thing that Bischoff says before the bell even rings, he said, that this would be a crazy brawl, and that if you're thinking this is going to be a wrestling match, then you're watching the wrong match, because there's going to be brawling. And it ended up being like a wrestling match, like completely opposite of what Eric Bischoff said in commentary. It was kind of disappointing. I was actually kind of wanting more, I guess more Public Enemy stuff. But the match overall was all right. But yes, there was some messy moments, but that's going to happen when you have two very differing wrestling styles in the Steiners and Public Enemy. So yeah, there are going to be some misses, and so I kind of let it slide, but not enough for it to be a 2-star match. So yeah, I agree. I think 1 3/4 is a proper rating for this match.
Well, I think the following match, Kyle, is going to be our standby match because it's Arn Anderson versus the Bootyman, and I don't know if that was originally booked or not, but I gotta say this was important for not necessarily the match itself, but we got a lot of character development on the Bootyman, and I think this is something you and I have kind of been discussing, theorizing, wondering about, questioning, and we get some answers, Kyle. Because they start to talk about that the Bootyman worked the camp underground in the dungeon for Hogan. So now they're saying that the Bootyman was the Zodiac working underground. They say he sacrificed a year of his life for Hogan to gain inside knowledge of the dungeon. So apparently the Bootyman was just a mole for Hogan, and the whole Zodiac character was a cover up. Then they go on to say. He has everything DDP has. Him and DDP are feuding now, and apparently,
how lazy is that? By the way, that they basically just took Johnny B. Bad's whole storyline with DDP and just said, "Throw in Bootyman."
The best part about it is they said, "Oh, by the way, the Bootyman, he has Paige's money, he has the Diamond Doll, and DDP's career is on the line." Like, wait a minute, Johnny B. Bad beat DDP for the money, and I think the money went to Diamond Doll. Now all of a sudden. Bootyman has the money, and DDP's going to wrestle the Bootyman for his money. And exactly, it's so fucking lazy. It's like, you know what, just give him the Johnny B. Bad storyline, and we'll say he was a mole for Hogan in the dungeon, and just write it all off as nothing. It was kind of funny, and also just, like... I mean,
I'm glad he has a storyline, because he doesn't have one, obviously. He's just being the guy that every once in a while helps Hogan and Savage. So I'm glad he has something, but... Once again, we're on the outside looking in. We're like, hey, why don't you just? What's this whole thing about? Oh, if he wins, then DDP loses his career, loses all of his money. I'm like, when did the Bootyman get any credential at all to decide the fate of DDP? All of a sudden,
yeah, it's unreal. I mean, it'd be like if we were watching Raw, and Goldust and Piper are feuding, and then like, Piper gets fired, so all of a sudden Goldust is having a backlap brawl with Savio Vega, and Vega's the new president of the WWF.
It's kind of funny that you use that as the example, because it's kind of like if Goldust was going to fight Razor Ramon,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden, just for no reason, just throw Roddy Piper in.
It's funny because as I brought that example up, because I was just trying to think of a feud in there, as I bring it up, I'm like, fuck, they kind of did that, didn't they?
That's kind of priceless, actually. I like that.
So they do start to talk about the Uncensored card here, Kyle, and I don't know if this is what you were referring to or not, but it's still not nearly as good as having Todd Pettengill or Doc Hendricks go over it, but they're going to start telling you the matches. Of course, Loch Ness and the Giant now are going to have a match, I guess, for the biggest man in for the title of the biggest man in sports, based on the last 2 weeks. Of course, Medusa versus Colonel Parker, which we had discovered was going to be a match last week. Eddie Guerrero is going to be going up against Conan for the U.S. title, so that should be a good match. And then the Chicago Street Fight, of course, you got the Road Warriors against Sting and Booker T.
Why not?
What?
And also, it's not for the titles.
It's not. There's this whole
match.
Lex Luger basically coerces everyone into the Chicago Street Fight, and now Booker T is teaming up with Sting. Like, what?
Very random. Very random.
And then, of course, it is the Mega Powers, Kyle, in 4 cages, and we know Flair, Arn, Luger, and Taskmaster are all in there.
Yep.
So, got a lot there. And apparently the Bootyman, of course, is going to be wrestling DDP for his career money in the Diamond Doll. So, a lot of matches. It's the card everyone's been talking about.
It really is, and it's nothing but a jumbled piece of shit mess, but I'm actually very intrigued, and I really actually want to watch this.
The entire card is discombobbled, you could say, or at least that's what Mongo said. And normally, like, when somebody just, like, misspeaks or something, they just, like, let it go. He didn't make fun of Mongo for it, and I was dying.
I think the funnier thing is that when they had the promo, they said, uncensored is unsanctioned. And the moment I heard unsanctioned, I'm like, so you're saying that none of these matches count, so then we shouldn't have a title match? Because that's what an unsanctioned match means. That according to the company, the match never happened. So you can't have title matches in an unsanctioned match.
Well,
once again, I'm sure they threw the word in there. They probably didn't even think about it. It was just something to promote, and it's also an unword. But it was just something that I just laughed. I saw like, uncensored is unpredictable, unsanctioned, and I'm like, it's pretty fucking sanctioned.
Well, other than the
opposite of unsanctioned,
other than the U.S. title, which nobody fucking cares about, there's no other titles on the line. So I guess you got that going for it.
Good call. Yeah, there is only one title up for grabs in this.
So, that said, this match, Kyle, it's going to end. Kimberly's going to come out. Woman's going to grab her high heel. Bootyman's going to come out and protect Kimberly, the diamond doll, the booty babe, what a booty girl, whatever
booty
her name
gal,
is.
whatever. Yeah.
So I thought that's kind of how it was going to end.
She has as many names as the Road Warriors at this point.
I thought this is like maybe it's going to end with a count out or DQ, but then they head back into the. Bootyman heads back to the ring. Arn starts to climb back into the ring, takes a knee to the face, and that's the finish. I give this a 1.5 because what is Kimberly doing? How did the match end with Arn taking a knee to the face? The same guy who beat Hogan 2 weeks in a row just jobbed to a fucking knee to the face from Bootyman. If there was one guy who was on a roll, it was Arn Anderson.
They were saying he was technically undefeated in Nitro.
Yeah.
He has never lost on Nitro.
Yes. And he just lost to a fucking knee to the face.
Yeah, I'm on there too. I gave it a 1.5. I almost gave it less just because I really didn't think the match was that interesting. I don't think the Bootyman's very good, to be honest. And I just also found it funny that Bischoff talks up Bootyman's conditioning and how great he looks. Every day he's looking like more and more and more in shape, as if he's an old man. He was, but at the same time, he was probably about as old as like DDP was, and they probably never talked about how old he is. The match was really slow paced. There really wasn't much to it, just a lot of punching and kicking. I agree the finish was stupid. Just like it's almost a heel move. Like you're not letting the guy back in the ring. They just fucking bashes a knee to the side of the head and pins him. And then when Bootyman does win, like Bischoff is shocked. Like he pulled off the biggest upset ever, which kind of contradicts the fact that they're saying how impressive Bootyman's been, and in every match he's been kicking ass. So why wouldn't Bootyman beat Arn Anderson if he's as in in good condition and has been kicking ass since he's been here? So it was just kind of strange. I am glad that we finally had some finality with Kimberly, though. That at least, as much as it seems like it's lazy writing, it really is. But at the same time, at least it's something. It's better than having her just wandering around and not knowing why. At least we now know. So, once again, still 1.5.
One more thing I just want to add is you said that Bootyman kind of made a heel tactic, kind of winning by that. To be fair, Kyle, he's been a disciple of Hogan, and Hogan uses heel tactics to win too. So,
this is true. He didn't do a 9 count and a bite though, so he hasn't reached mega heel status yet.
No. Also, did you catch my pun in there? I used disciple. Because he's the disciple of Hogan.
Hold on. He's the disciple?
You didn't know he was the disciple?
No, I thought he was the Bootyman, and then he was. Holy shit! You just blew my mind. I never thought about the fact that in the NWO days that disciple was.
Are you kidding me? You didn't know that's fucking Beefcake?
No, I never thought that was Beefcake. He looked so different.
He grew a beard.
Well, he grew a beard and wore sunglasses, but I couldn't tell. He just looked older.
The fact that you didn't know that, and I just blew your mind on this podcast, this is the greatest day in the history of our sport. Because
oh my god. Well, hey, Tony Schiavone's not on the fucking table yet. All right, we're gonna hear that a lot pretty soon.
Yes,
so don't overuse it.
That's funny. All right. Well, moving on. I'm glad I explained my disciple joke so it wouldn't fly over your head for multiple reasons.
Dude, I gotta take a moment. Yeah, go ahead and keep talking about the next match.
Well, the next thing is the WCW Saturday Night promo. The Road Warriors will be wrestling Public Enemy. So after their match tonight against who are they wrestling tonight?
Public Enemy, the Steiners. Oh, you're talking about the Nasty Boys.
The Nasty Boys. They're gonna move on to Public Enemy. So one jobbing tag team to the next. Earl Robert Eaton's going to be wrestling Sting. The television championship is going to be on the line as Lex is going to be defending it against Brad Armstrong. Eddie Guerrero is going to be wrestling Alex Wright. And Ric Flair is going to be wrestling Sergeant Craig Pittman, Kyle.
Dude, that's our boy.
I still want to know.
Happy to see it.
I still want to know if the guy has a fucking manager or not. Like, that is one of the storylines that I miss not having closure on the most.
It's hung up there next to the Cruiserweight tournament.
Yeah. And what about the Japanese contingent? Remember Sonny Ono? Remember when that was a thing?
I mean, once again, it's whatever Hogan wants at this point. So
yeah, no kidding. Hogan must want the Road Warriors versus the Nasty Boys, Kyle, because that's our next matchup. And one of the guys, it might have been Heenan, says, "Keep those pen and papers down. There's nothing to see here." And it's the second time they've said this, and I wanted to know who besides you and I for this podcast is taking notes when it comes to Nitro.
And we're doing it,
22 years later.
Years later, yeah.
And then I think that was Heenan, because then Mongo, of course, follows it up with, "Also put the Metamucil down because you're fixed to see a beating." That's our moment of silence for the Mongo quote of the week. And of course, the match, the Nasty Boys at least were taped up and bandaged up from their attack last week, so they kind of had some sort of
they're
continuation.
kayfabe injured, so thank you.
And right when the match starts, of course, we go to commercial and we come back. We've got an uncensored pay-per-view promo. Which
I think this is when we see the unsanctioned bullshit.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. And I had to laugh, Kyle. They grabbed one of those plastic chairs that looks like it was from like a bingo hall or like a church social or something like that, and start using it on each other. And Nick Patrick is completely fine because I guess it's not a steel folding chair. I'm not sure.
I think it still shouldn't matter. I mean, he's disqualified people for holding a belt. So once again, WCW reffing is a common comedy trope at this point in the show.
Eventually, the Steiners are going to come out. They're going to attack both teams, which Nick Patrick apparently is okay with as well. I'm not sure. In the end, Animal's going to grab that wrist pad that he used last week, and they're going to pick up the 3 count for that, Kyle. There's your winners, as they said. There's your winners, the Legion of Doom. So they continue to call them the Legion of Doom.
Well, Heenan keeps calling him the Legion of Doom.
Star and a half, Kyle. This is just another bad match with shitty-ass refereeing from Nick Patrick.
I gave it a 1.25 stars, and the main reason was because of the finish. The gauntlet was nowhere to be seen until the Steiner showed up. I actually had to rewind it back. Rick Steiner is the one that brings it in.
Are you serious?
He runs down. Rick Steiner runs down from the rampway with Scott and runs into the ring holding it. So he brought it with him and then left it in the ring when he got thrown out. And I'm like, come on, guys, you're not even trying. So, yeah, I hated the finish just because it wouldn't have happened. It wasn't for the fact that Rick Steiner just didn't, plant it in the middle of the ring with Nick Patrick not looking. Or looking, it doesn't really matter.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Then we get our main event, Kyle. We got Ric Flair and the Taskmaster joined by a woman. They're going to be wrestling the Mega Powers. And we got Texas Tornado rules here, Kyle, so it's another chaotic main event.
Basically, it's the same match we had last week, minus Straps and Lumberjacks. Take away the Bootyman and Arn Anderson, who wrestled earlier in the evening. Right. Also, another thing that you might not have known, this was originally booked in Chattanooga, Tennessee, weeks and weeks and weeks ago. This was I was reading up on this particular day. There was posters outside that was supposed to be Flair versus Sting for the world title. That was supposed to be the main event for Nitro, which is, once again, totally understandable. One of the craziest things in the last couple of weeks is that the world title has not been on the line.
That's true. That's a good point. Where it was like a weekly ordeal. Yeah. Right.
So, yeah, it was supposed to be Flair versus Sting, but, apparently Hogan wanted to step in and, have a match. So this is what you got.
They said Savage was throwing more punches than Tyson to Frank Bruno, which, of course, I had to look that up. 2 days prior, Tyson had a boxing match with Bruno. And
beat the shit out of him.
He beat the shit out of him. It ended in the 3rd round. Tyson dodges a jab from Bruno and proceeds to launch a 13-punch combination that causes the referee Mills Lane to stop the fight and award Tyson the victory via a TKO.
Ooh, our boy Mills Lane was doing that match.
Yeah.
Also, I'm pretty sure Raw talks about Tyson's match as well.
They do. Could you imagine taking 13 punches in a row from Tyson?
I was gonna say, like, I wouldn't want to take 13 punches from your wife, let alone Mike Tyson. So,
and even Tyson can't hit the 10 punch properly. He's got to go extra. I don't know.
It's a heel for you. At least he didn't bite him.
That's true. And I got to say, for a minute, Hogan was following the rules, Kyle, but eventually he's going to strangle Kevin Sullivan with his bandana. Then he's going to rake the back. Then he's going to grab that bingo chair. And it was fun.
Once again, bingo chairs are okay. Bingo chairs are acceptable.
Flair's going to put Savage into the figure four. A few seconds later, Hogan is going to put Sullivan in the figure four. So we've got
that was not a figure four. That was just some shitty. I don't know what Hogan did. He just basically like turned one leg over and put the other leg on top. I mean, I give him credit for it, but he's such an old man with shitty legs and knees. I don't think he was able to do it from a physical standpoint. Anyways, I mean, his legs are so goddamn huge.
Right. And then you had a laugh, Kyle. Flair's going to have the figure four reversed as always. And he's going to push Randy Anderson, which caused Randy Anderson to push Flair back down, which is kind of funny. You got to appreciate that Flair's going to kind of do that sell to – he doesn't care even if it's little Pee-wee or not. Flair is going to then get he's going to get woman's shoe, and he's going to knock Hogan out with it. But it's Hulk up time, Kyle. It looks like the woman's shoe is no longer going to cause 3 counts. He's no longer vulnerable to the stiletto, if you will. You're going to get the big boot, and out comes Arn Anderson, and he's going to trip Hogan before Hogan can drop the leg. Now the match is thrown out. That's a disqualification.
No, it's not. It hasn't been DQ'd yet at all. They haven't rang the bell yet.
I thought they did ring the bell.
No, this is what's so crazy about this match. That happened. Randy Anderson saw it, lets it go. They continue to fight on the outside with chairs, and then Pillman shows up, and then he throws a chair, and then Randy Anderson decides that's the right time to call the DQ.
That's DQ'd? Okay. I wrote
Which, by the way,
wrong.
I'm pretty sure I thought he was already fired.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Pillman, like if he's officially fired yet or not, but he keeps showing up. I gave the match 2 stars because I thought initially it showed some promise, and then, of course, it ended with its total chaotic ending. Before you get into what happened after the match, do you want to give your rating real quick?
I gave it a star and 3/4. I mean, maybe I would give it 2, but there's something to be said about. I think like these guys need to have a structured match. A tornado match with these 4 does not make sense. It doesn't play to their strengths. They know how to have a regular match where you're tagging in and you're playing off each other. You're getting the momentum. When you're busy trying to pay attention to what Savage is doing to Arn, and then Hogan goes to the Taskmaster, and then they switch off. I mean, for the most part, Macho and Hogan just squashed both Flair and Sullivan. I think maybe other than a couple of knife edge chops and a break to the eye from time to time, this was the Mega Power show, and it just seemed like it was just hard to keep track of it. It felt like 2 different singles matches that was going on at once, and then they would just take turns with different people.
Right.
So it didn't feel like a Texas Tornado match.
Because there's no Texas Tornado?
Correct. I need a literal tornado from Texas to make it a 2-star match.
Of course, then, like you said, after the match, you got Pillman out there. He's getting into it Savage. Taskmaster's going to be attacking Pillman because he still has his blood feud there. Bootyman's going to come out then, Kyle. And then out comes Jimmy Hart, and he's got 2 new monsters with him. Must be 2 new Dungeon of Doom members. One, of course, easily recognized as Zeus, who, of course, is going to be wrestling under the name Z Gangsta with an A. And it's
this guy sounds German.
It's speaking of German, the other guy, Jeep Swenson, his name at the initial time, nobody seemed to throw a red flag, was The Final Solution.
Yeah, that went through. I feel like that went through enough like Turner Broadcasting, things saying, "Hey, this is the name of this wrestler," and I was like, "Yeah, I don't give a shit."
The final solution. Apparently nobody picked up on that, the whole Hitler thing behind it. He does, by the time he's going to wrestle at Uncensored, which would be this Sunday, his name will be the Ultimate Solution. But between now and then, he is the final solution. He comes out. His real claim to fame, Kyle, because I had to look this guy up. I wasn't familiar with him. He played Bane in the Batman and Robin movie in the mid-'90s, which I thought was kind of funny. He's a fucking huge guy. Just a monster, dude.
Yeah, I was looking up a little bit with him, too. When he actually dies about a year and a half after that air date. He died in August 97 from heart failure. Who would have thought? But I guess like Hogan, British Bulldog gave eulogies, and then they did a final measure of his biceps before they cremated him. Because I guess at one point he had like a Guinness Book of World Records for having the largest biceps at the time.
Well, there you have it. So they're going to get in it. Team Hulkamania is going to leave the ring. Flair's going to taunt him on the mic, and Shivani's going to get into the ring and start talking with the Alliance to End Hulkamania. That's what they're calling themselves. And Taskmaster says this is in response to Hogan adding Savage. So apparently Hogan gets Savage. They're going to get Z Gangsta and the Ultimate Final Solution. And
did you also know that the Alliance to End Hulkamania backwards is Heat?
That's funny.
I just thought that was kind of a... I don't know if that was on purpose, but if it wasn't, that's awesome. If it was, still not bad.
All right. Jimmy Hart's going to get on there and say they're not Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, referring to Hogan and Savage, but says they're Dumb and Dumber. So, good job, Jimmy.
He said he's dumber, and I said dumber and dumber. So saying Dumb and Dumber, which I don't know if that was once again just saying they're both dumber. So, still.
Oh, no, that's fine. And then Arn's going to get on there, Kyle, and this is when he says the Bootyman beat his unbeaten Monday night record, which I feel like is not. I swear I saw Arn get pinned many times on Nitro. Maybe it was in tag matches, and I think it was in tag matches. Singles.
He might. I think he's only counting his singles matches because he's definitely been part of like tag teams and double or like once again he was in the match last week that he lost. So, but once again that was a 6-man double strap. God, I don't know. I can't even get through my head what the stipulations were, but yeah, he lost then, but he didn't get pinned, but I think he was just counting his singles matches.
And we're going to finish the show out, Kyle, on the commentary, and basically Heenan just goes on a rant saying it's over for Hogan, and Hogan is done. Hulkamania
and Mongo's just waving it away like he always does because there's nothing to fucking say.
That's your Nitro. What'd you think?
I mean, I feel like we talked a lot about this show, so for the sake of the fact that there was a lot to talk about, I guess you got to give them credit that I think the product overall was interesting and entertaining. The matches were, for the most part, hot garbage, but I think we've been used to hot garbage now for the past couple of weeks, so it's par for the course as far as the content, but storylines are definitely moving forward. I think it wasn't a great go-home show, to be completely honest. Although I will say that it is interesting that they've added more people to the Dungeon of Doom. So now that they're saying that Macho Man was able to get himself inserted in the match, so now they're going to insert more Dungeon of Doom members, which is just going to give Hogan and Macho Man more chance to get more over by taking out more people.
Right. It just buries more people along the way. For me, it was an okay go-home show. I mean, they're pushing the main event. They're pushing the 4-layered tier cake cage match of Doom. But then, as far as the matches themselves, most of the matches were garbage tonight. And
if you think about it too, like every other match that's going on next week, I mean, there's no other than the giant Loch Ness, which obviously that was almost added that day.
Right.
The whole Chicago street fight has no traction whatsoever.
Eddie and Conan for the United States Championship, nothing.
There's also Belfast Bruiser versus Lord Steven Regal, which I don't know if maybe that was put on WCW Pro. Right. We'll find out then. Who knows?
Yeah, the Colonel Parker Medusa, nothing. I mean, it's literally the main event. That's all you're getting pushed. So it was okay, but it was for me, it was better than the previous Nitros, but not by much. That said, Kyle, let's get to Raw. Not sure if we'll have be talking about nearly as much as we did on as Nitro, but we'll see. We open up with a promo. There was a wrestling match at Madison Square Garden over the weekend. Of course, this was that mixed tag where we thought, Hart. It was Hart and Taker versus Michaels and Diesel. And of course, we thought
which I would have paid to see for sure. That would have been an awesome match to watch.
Of course, this is where you thought Michaels and Hart might start to get the heat kind of intensified for their match. Instead, it's Diesel basically turning heel on everybody. He turns on Michaels, which is the big shock. And, of course, that solidifies him as the bad guy in his match against Undertaker. And they're going to let us know that Diesel's going to be in action tonight. And Undertaker's going to be hanging around. He'll be around. And then Billionaire Ted reveals his true colors. So, got a lot to get into. Our opening match then, Kyle, is British Bulldog versus Jake the Snake Roberts. And I had to laugh because I'm pretty sure the DDT is more over than Jake the Snake because the fans don't give a shit about him, but then they love chanting DDT.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he just walks in with a bag snake and a move that everyone loves, and that's other than that, he's just a shell that carries all those things.
Right. We're found out that Owen and Bulldog are going to be wrestling the Godwins in that tag team tournament, so we got that going for us. And Jerry Lawler announces that he's going to be in a never before seen match coming up this week on Superstars. So curious to see if they're going to let us know what that match was because I really don't know what it is.
I do, but I went ahead and watched it. But we'll talk. Well, if they do talk about it next week, we'll talk about it next week.
All right. In the match, Jake the Snake's going to go for the 3 count. Cornette's going to pull him off, which causes Jake to grab Revelations and chase Cornette out, which leads to a 10 count out for Bulldog. So we've got 2 opening bouts on both shows. They both end in countouts. This one I gave 2 stars. What did you think about the match?
You gave it 2 stars, really?
I did.
I thought this match sucked hard. The only pops, the crowd was more over in this than anybody else.
I think maybe that's why. Maybe I thought the crowd was into it, and I just have seen nothing but garbage matches. I watched Nitro for a second to this, and I'm like, eh.
I did not like this match. I mean, it was. I gave it a star and a half. There was not much in. Obviously, Bulldog is going to do the best he can with a guy like Jake. But Jake is not spectacular. He is old. He can't do anything. I'd always find it funny how the WWE or WWF is making jokes about how washed up stars like Hogan and Savage are, getting put over. Yet we have, this leftover 80s wrestler Jake the Snake who's now back, and then you have Roddy Piper who's in a match at WrestleMania. It just seems like it's a little bit contradictory, but I digress. They also talk about the Tyson boxing match again and how boring it was because it only lasted 8 minutes. And here in the World Wrestling Federation, the excitement is over an hour long, yada yada. But the match itself, all Jake was just trying to do was plant the DDT. I don't think he really did any moves. He just tried to just do the DDT, and he finally does, which then causes the whole Cornette stopping the pin,
right.
Stopping the count. The ref obviously saw it but didn't do anything about it. Shitty ref work, and then the count out. Once again, who gives? I didn't give any shits about this match. I give it a star and a half.
Fair enough. After this, we're going to get our training montage for Michaels and Hart again as we continue to push that Iron Man condition match. Michaels is basically talking about where it all started, with his training, and then Bret Hart's going to talk about how he's proud of his legacy, but says his son is a Shawn Michaels fan, Kyle, so a little dissension.
You can
there.
really start to see the seeds that are being sowed for the heel turn for Bret Hart, because Bret Hart is sounding very well, I don't see why anybody would look up to a guy. If you were to look at a guy like Shawn and look at a guy like me, I think you would rather look up to a guy like me. That's what heels say. This is like the whole because when someone out loud says that they think they're a better role model in the world of professional wrestling, that's a heel thing to do. And Bret is coming off as a dick. Last week he was talking about, I've never seen any tough wrestlers from Mexico. He's just sounding like a fucking prick throughout this whole promoting of this match.
Well, I think somebody needs to, like we said, they're gonna, and I think it's gonna take some time. I don't think he's gonna be a heel before the, match actually takes place, but I do think it's the, beginning of the turn anyways. After that, we're gonna get our Fatu versus Goldust match. Fatu's already in the ring, Kyle, and it kind of dawned on me at this point that, I felt like Fatu had a little bit of a push early on with us, when we started watching this. That's gone. He kind of seems like he's like Jobber Central now.
At first he was getting a couple wins, but once again he was beating people like Skip Donna and stuff like that. But usually they've been putting him in to make returning wrestlers, and then when Jeff Jarrett came back, he jobbed to Fatu, and I think he's been in a couple of matches where he should have lost to the better person, but he at least made himself look good, I think, at the same time while putting somebody over, which I think is the reason why they put him in here with Goldust. So Fatu is definitely an enhancement talent, which is a little bit of a shame.
So is it like Savio Vega and then Fatu as far as those guys that are like jobbing but trying to be like better than the average enhancement talent?
Right, he's not your Scott Taylors or your Skip Donnas. He's not that low, or your Barry Horowitz's. Once again, no disrespect to Barry Horowitz, but I think Fatu is that next echelon where he could be put in a storyline with a mid to maybe upper tier wrestler as like a tag match, kind of how Savio Vega's been tagging with Razor. Right. Like Razor's a higher guy on the card, and then throwing Savio in, I think it's to help. It's almost like a Bootyman type of thing, where Bootyman by himself is nothing to care about, but because he's associating with Hogan, you got to pay attention to him. So he's automatically got to be somebody important on the card.
Yeah, I'll buy that. Of course, we're going to see a replay of Goldust and Piper and how they kind of got into it last week, and it's official. We got our Hollywood backlot brawl match that Piper made last week. It's official now. It's happening at WrestleMania. Goldust is going to come out wearing a kilt, obviously a direct dig at Piper. And Piper is going to call in during this match, and as soon as they answer and say, hey, it's Rowdy Piper, that's their signal to go to commercial, because it's now twice.
The second time, yeah.
Yeah, that Piper gets on, and they immediately go to commercial, which made me laugh. But they come back. Piper's pissed off. He's ready for a street fight. He says there's going to be no fun in this backlot brawl, which is a little disappointing. I was hoping there'd be a little fun. And, of course, Goldust is going to win this with a curtain call. It's pretty much a standard squash. The only thing I noticed, I don't know if you noticed or not, Kyle, but I swear it looked like he went 1, 2, 3 and counted before he lifted Fatu. Like, he almost needed Fatu to help jump for the curtain call.
A Samoan, I mean, if you're going to try doing that to a Samoan, I mean, a Samoan is basically like a lead boulder, so you kind of have to make sure that you coordinate that to not make it look like straight garbage.
Yeah, but it was kind of funny. I gave the match 1.5 stars.
I gave it 1.25 stars. No one gave a shit about it. Basically, the moment that Piper was on the phone, the announcers were completely not calling the match at all. And, I mean, maybe I give it 1.5 stars because, I mean, I think the guys in the ring did an okay job. But it was a nothing match that they clearly put Piper on there because they felt that the crowd, or not the crowd, obviously, but the TV audience would have been more interested in hearing Piper talk shit than to actually watch Goldust, develop as a character. So, kind of a shame. Obviously, you and I are both huge Goldust fans. So, 1.5 stars.
After the match, Kyle, we're going to get a promo for the personification of Unleashed Fury, or the Ultimate Warrior, where they remind you once again that he's the man that retired Randy Savage, that same guy you're watching on Nitro. Nice little dig in there.
He was basically standing on top of him like he just claimed him.
Yep.
I like how that's mainly the picture that they use to show it. It's just like Ultimate Warrior just standing over a completely defeated Randy Savage.
And then we're going to promo, Kyle, for Superstars, where apparently a little chaos broke out with Cornette's team of Vader, Bulldog, and who am I forgetting? Owen. And with Ahmed Johnson, Yokozuna, and Jake the Snake Roberts. Of course, we're setting up for that 6-man tag match at WrestleMania, which, when you have someone like Owen Hart and you got Vader, God, this just seems like a waste of the talent, doesn't it, for WrestleMania?
I don't know. I mean, they don't really have anything going on. This is going to be Vader's, I think, first legitimate
I know, but
match.
It's like, Owen Hart wrestled Bret Hart at, what was that, WrestleMania 10? 9?
I think it was 9.
They had that amazing match, and now here he's in a fucking 6-man match with fucking Ahmed Johnson. And
it kind of makes you think of like the old Divas division where like, you don't have a match, I'll just throw them all in like a 10 woman, tag match at WrestleMania.
You say old Divas division, and that shit still happens today. They still they don't know what to do outside the world title match or women's title match, so they just throw all the other women together in a match. That's kind of what's happening here.
Okay,
it's unfortunate. Cornette's gonna get on the mic, Kyle, and he's gonna call Yokozuna an idiot. He mentions that Mr. Fuji's out with a knee injury, which I'm pretty sure is not true, but I guess they just wanted to acknowledge why Mr. Fuji isn't around.
And probably also not coming back. I think they're just saying he's no longer part of Team Cornette.
So apparently they're saying a knee injury is the reason for it, which, okay.
Well, he also said, I was there, and I was even behind him when it happened, making it seem like he's the one that pushed him.
Like he's the cause? Yeah.
Yes.
That's right. Yep, I do remember him saying that now. That's the problem is, I watched these last 3 weeks worth of shows, a couple weeks ago in a hotel room. So, now I'm looking at my notes, trying to remember everything. And I'm like, God, I need to stop watching them so far ahead. But, sometimes it just works out best that way. Yokozuna's gonna respond, and he's going to say that Cornette needs some help with the English language, which made me laugh. And then he shows himself do a bonsai drop onto basically a dummy that's got a balloon head, balloon head painted with Cornette's face on it. And, of course, the balloon's going to pop. And then there's some clarification made in the ring where Cornette realizes that if his team loses to Yoko's team, that Yokozuna's going to get 5 minutes with him, which is, of course, the classic heel manager sort of match blow-off. And Cornette, of course, going nuts, can't believe it, that, trying to get out of that. There's no way that should be a stipulation. And Vince tells him, you gotta read the fine print, brother. So, I don't
think you said brother, but yeah. He did say something along the lines of that.
Yeah, more or less. I don't care about the 6-man tag at all.
Oh, the only thing I care about is if they make Vader look really fucking awesome. That's the only thing I'm hoping that comes out of this, is that either somebody out of that 6 is pushed. You know what I mean? As long as that, if it has to have some sort of consequence. It's a WrestleMania match. As long as he looks good, this is not like the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal where if you win, who gives a shit? I'm hoping at this point that something good's going to come out of the 6-man tag.
Yeah, well, we can hope, but I don't buy it yet. After this, we're going to get an Iron Man match promo, Kyle, and that's going to be followed up with the Diesel's match versus Barry Horowitz, the gentleman you just brought up recently. Of course, they're going to recap again what happened at Madison Square Garden the night before with that mixed tag match, and basically just talk about how despicable Diesel is for turning on Michaels. Diesel's going to come out. He kind of checks under the ring, still looking around for The Undertaker, which I appreciate that they're still kind of pushing that Taker's in the back of his mind. Before the match starts, we're going to get a Superstar line promo, trying to get them to call the 1-800 lines, which is just such a funny concept to me, how much money they made, between WWF and WCW back in the mid-90s, calling those promo lines, and
they must have hated that the internet started happening.
Killed all that, yeah. Because Gene made a shitload. Me and Gene made a shitload of money off of that. $500,000 a year or something on the promo lines, which is just absurd. Because most of that shit they just make up. Of course, we're going to see a promo, also a replay from last week where Diesel attacked Paul Bearer. And that's going to lead into the match, Kyle. Paul Bear's going to come out. He's pushing a casket, which they say, you know who's in this casket. Which
is the old bait and switch. He's not in that.
Yeah, as soon as Vince said it, you know who's in that casket, I go, oh, apparently Undertaker is not going to be in this casket. The distraction of Bear coming out did give Barry Horowitz an advantage for about 30 seconds. But Diesel's going to regain control. He's going to hit that big boot, which I fucking love Nash's big boot. Especially when he hits it on a guy like Barry Horowitz. It looks like he just absolutely decapitates him with his foot.
What also helps, he's like a legitimate, really tall guy with huge legs.
Oh, yeah.
His
looks
reach
great.
is insane.
Yeah, it looks great. It looks 1,000 times better than Hogan's big boot.
And what makes it sad is that gets you a 2 count, and then Diesel punches Barry Horowitz in the face and then gets a 3 count.
That cracked me up so much. Is it was like he hit the big boot and it's like 1, 2, nope, kick out, and then he just like you said, he just gives him a punch in the face, leans back down on him, and it's 1, 2, 3.
Dude, but that seems so real. It seems so real. Like that's what would happen. Like, he just punched him out cold. I honestly think Barry Horowitz was supposed to job to the lay down to the big boot, but then kicked out, and I think Diesel was like, dude, stay down, and punches him in the face and just pins him again.
Dude, I was dying. I loved everything about it. It's like in a video game or something. Like you thought you had him, you're like, shit, he's got a little bit of health left. Let me just try to pin him one more time. And the guy's like, fuck, I can't kick out a second time in a row. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. I gave this match 2.25 stars because of that finish.
I mean, I'm not gonna be that nice, but I'll say 2. I'll say 2 stars. I mean, you gotta call it what it is. It was a bad finish. As hilarious as it was not a good finish for a match. I'm sure they were probably back there like, dude, who the hell wins a match by just laying prone on the floor and getting just punched in the face? Like, this is professional wrestling. You get punched in the face all the time. So that's like, that's Diesel's new finisher. Just throw him on the floor and punch him in the face.
I would love that. How many people have you ever seen win with a punch to the face?
Well, so far we've seen that's one less than the backslide we've seen so far.
Exactly. That's my point. After the match, Diesel's going to grab a wrench from the timekeeper's table.
Because that's where wrenches are located.
Apparently. He's going to go over. Of course, he's going to open up the casket to find the Undertaker. Nope. It's maybe it's Glenn Jacobs dressed up as the fake Diesel or something.
I think that's a mannequin.
I think it is a mannequin.
Which, by the way, I have to say, that's a crazy good one.
Dude, I had to sit there. I was like trying to figure it out. I'm like, what is this? Because it looked fucking just like him.
It looked like a real doll of fucking Diesel. And it almost scared me because I was taken aback. Like, that is insanely like Diesel. And it had not have been a real person because he moved it. He pulled the thing back. You couldn't tell. There was no eye movement. There was no like lids. That was not a living person. I also found it that it might have been a little bit poor taste because it seems like the show is supposed to be family friendly, and they're like bringing out what looks like a dead body in a body bag, like out to the ring. Like I just thought that was kind of like a weird. I understand we have Goldust. I do get that, but I feel like ultimately this just seemed like not in their bag to bring out a cadaver.
Oh, yeah.
To the ring.
No, I know what you mean. It really is. I actually was trying to figure it out, like if they had anything, what they said. There have been various theories over the years about how the magic trick was pulled off, but Kevin Nash recently revealed that it was not a wax sculpture in the casket, but rather Nash himself. The shot of Diesel in the casket was pre-recorded for the television airing. Inside the casket was a dummy, not actually seen up close by the live audience.
Oh, interesting. So the live audience really didn't get a chance to see it, but then anything that they actually did like a close-up of was actually Diesel.
Which would make so much more sense.
It does make sense.
I'm actually watching a GIF of it right now, just kind of seeing. Yep. There's
Diesel. Diesel does a very
away.
good impression. Diesel does a very good impression of Diesel.
Well, there you have it. So either way, kudos to them. That's one of the advantages you get from a pre-produced show.
Agreed.
And then after this, Kyle, we're going to get this segment that we tend to get a lot for whatever reason is heels shown in the locker room for half a second, and then they kick the cameraman out. And I don't know why they even bother. Like it's like the heels coming up in the main event, and they're like going to be like, let's get a look and see what they're doing. And it's like they cut to them and then like, get out of here with that camera. And that's
I think they do it. I think they do it because I think they're trying to talk about like, obviously, what's the 1, 2, 3 kid just randomly doing back there? Obviously, they're playing out when he's going to come out and do anything. So they're pushing him back to make it seem like they're up to no good and looks like it has something to do with 1, 2, 3 kid. He wouldn't just be there for no reason,
right?
You know what I mean?
I feel like it's weird because it lasts like 5 seconds. Like they don't give it enough time to like even like marinate to like the thought process sometimes.
Sure, they're almost so blatant about it,
right? After that, we get our Karate Fighter Slam of the Week, which is the Olympic champion, the world's strongest man, Kyle. It's Mark Henry. He's gorilla pressing Jerry Lawler. So
Jerry Lawler was the first admittance into the Hall of Pain. We now know
nice.
It's confirmed.
It is confirmed. And then we get some promos for next week's Raw. It's going to be Shawn Michaels versus Leif Cassidy, Kyle. Poor Leif Cassidy.
I would have loved, I rather would have had this be Marty versus Shawn just for the sake of it, but I guess we'll get the next best thing.
We'll get Al Snow wrestling under his third different character on Raw.
That we know of, on Raw. Yeah, exactly.
Since we started. 3 different characters, 1 guy. That's impressive.
And sad.
What is also sad is Owen Hart's going to be wrestling Ahmed Johnson. So we got that next week. That's your upcoming Raw.
Both of those matches are not exciting for me at all. That Raw promotion was nothing I get. First of all, once again, this is Al Snow taking on Shawn Michaels is going to wrestle. That seems okay. And obviously your boy Ahmed Johnson being part of the promotion, that's already going to make your blood boil.
Right. Is that the go-home show then for WrestleMania, or do we got 2 weeks still?
No, I think that is.
Yeesh.
Because they said it's 13 days away. So, next week is the final Raw, and
Yeah.
It's a big bucket of yuck right there.
Yeah, it sure is.
The only way I can see that they bring us home is that those are the only 2 actual matches, and then everything else is build-up.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to see. We get our main event, though, Kyle. It's going to be Tatanka and Bret Hart. And
which is about as exciting as Shawn Michaels versus Leif Cassidy.
And I found it was strange is I think Lawler mentions that it's easier to interview Muhammad Ali than it is to interview Bret Hart. I don't know what that means, but I feel like it's a dig at Bret.
Or a dig at Parkinson's? I don't know.
Yeah. Of course, like you said, Kyle, 123 Kid is going to come out for this match. He's part of the $1 Million Corporation. As is Tatanka.
They make a thing, or this is one of the things I wanted to mention about just how funny sometimes the color commentary can actually be. When 123 Kid starts coming down to the ring, and Vince is like, "What does 123 Kid have up his sleeve?" And then Lawler's like, "He doesn't have sleeves." I paused ahead to give a good laugh because
classic.
He's kind of right.
Yep.
It's classic. Yep.
Tatanka actually dominated this match early on for a little bit.
He also dominated Donuts. That dude is getting fat.
He is getting a little chubby there, and of course Bret Hart is going to eventually gain control. He's going to go for the sharpshooter, which leads to Ted DiBiase to interfere, and then 123 Kid's going to get up and on the apron. He's going to hold Hart. Tatanka is going to go for a clothesline, which of course Bret Hart's going to move. He's going to roll up Tatanka. Hebner takes about 25 seconds to get over there to make the count, and he is going to get that 3 count.
So it's a 28 count.
Yeah, I gave it a star and 3/4. I think if the ending had been better timed with Hebner on the 3 count, I would have given it like 2 stars. But overall, just not a very good match.
I actually gave it 2 1/4. The reason why I actually kind of liked the match because I was surprised by kind of how still decently mobile Tatanka is. As I think the reason why he's fat is, well, first of all, he's eating probably, and then probably the second thing is this happens a lot to wrestlers when they get off steroids. Because when I went back and looked at him in like 93, 94,
I thought you were going to say when I got off of steroids.
No. No, we don't talk about my personal thing.
When I got off of steroids, I just ballooned up.
That's the reason why I've gained so much weight. But no, like in 93, 94, when like Tatanka was like the undefeated Tatanka,
right.
Like when he was out there just beating everybody, he looked great. He looked like a fantastic physical condition. And then you're talking 2 years later, and all of a sudden he's fat. And I think when I was reading back on it, they're saying the reason why
in between there, so that could be part of it too.
That also might help it too. But they always call it the cycling off steroids bloat, is what they call it when professional wrestlers are maybe they got caught or they got a lot of times what happens is if they get caught using steroids or like they had to take a test and they failed it, but they're still on the card and need to be doing work, they'll just cycle themselves off of steroids like just cold turkey, which you're kind of not supposed to do because your body kind of freaks out. Right. When it's used to getting certain chemicals and then no longer getting them. And one of the things that happens is you start retaining water like bad. And I think that's what happened with Tatanka. Yeah. So with that, I gave it a higher star. I gave it a higher star match, 2 1/4, because I think the match actually wasn't too bad. It kind of showed that Hitman can win in other ways than just submissions. because easily a roll up can be part of a winning condition for the Iron Man match. And I finally can confirm with the 5 moves of doom. I keep hearing about the 5 moves of doom, and every single time everyone talks about it, I feel like we only see 3 or 4 of them from Bret Hart. So the 5 moves of doom is the Russian leg sweep, the atomic drop, the backbreaker, the middle rope elbow drop, and then the sharpshooter. I kept on trying to dance around with like what was the 5th, and I think the one I kept on missing was the backbreaker or the atomic drop. But I think it's always been the backbreaker. I always forget. I know the Russian leg sweep and the elbow were guarantees. So I'm glad that I finally. I'm glad that at age 33 and being an avid wrestling fan, I found out the 5 moves of doom for Bret Hart and the fact that Brutus the Barber Beefcake was the disciple.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it was an educational week for you, Kyle.
For sure.
We're not quite done yet, though. We'll finish up on Raw here. Of course, we get our Billionaire Ted segment for the week, and they're talking about they're calling it the Federal Turner Commission hearings, I think is what they're saying.
Yep.
And they're basically, it's an interview with a panel sitting there discussing with Ted Turner, asking him if he's trying to own a monopoly of TV. Is the WWF his latest target to eliminate? And then he starts cutting a promo about how they can't handle the truth. He basically went
a few good men on all of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I determine what you watch, who works. I put people out of business. He cuts a real strong, angry, like you said, few good men type promo. And he basically says, "You're damn right. No one's going to stop me from putting them out of business." It was a very serious, not really funny promo, Kyle. And it's going to end with a little thing where they basically said Ted Turner could own up to 50% of cable outlets if this partnership acquisition with AOL goes through. And if you're concerned, write to the chairman of the Federal Trade Commission, Robert Batisky or something. What'd you think of that segment?
To be honest, I was kind of angry. I wanted this to all just be in good fun. Like, I wanted this just to be jabs and just everything's, they mentioned this stuff, but the fact that now I'm totally on Bischoff's side where they're calling them the World Whining Federation, because this was pure whine mode. Like, I understand that maybe people don't want to have, maybe it's not in the best interest, obviously, for the WWE to be going up against somebody like Ted Turner if he gets this kind of acquisition. Even though I think the merger does kind of happen, and it actually kind of turns into the death of WCW, as we later find out that AOL and those guys don't know how to run a fucking wrestling company. But when I got done watching this and everything went to black, the only thing I could think of was like, dude, Vince, fuck off, dude. Like, nothing about this was remotely for entertainment purposes. Like, this was a complete axe to grind, and it was just weird. Just like, I don't really like, you have the balls to ask fans to write to the real FTC and give real information. Like, just fuck off, Vince.
Yeah, I have to agree. I wasn't a fan of it at all. We're getting near, of course, probably the end of the Billionaire Ted skits when we hit WrestleMania, but so I'll be curious to see how they kind of finish things up on the Go Home show. But that's your Raw, Kyle. What did you think overall?
You know what? There really wasn't anything about this show that had any kind of real value.
Nothing really happened.
No, I think the only thing I enjoyed was the Cornette spot. Like, that was because, once again, he's one of the best talkers in the company. I think the best story being told as far as what's going on to WrestleMania is Diesel Undertaker.
Yeah, as I say, I think the Diesel Taker spot for me, because I thought, even here we are in 2018, and it kind of, they fooled us both with the real Diesel kind of post-produced cutaway. So I think for that I give him credit, but the rest of the show, nothing happens.
Yeah, I think that's the worst part. Is that I'm okay with half shitty matches as long as a story is being told, and for the most part, no story is really being told. You're getting closer to WrestleMania, where it's so important to tell a story, and like, once again, like, yeah, the guys that are in WrestleMania are in matches, but they're not pushing a narrative in any of these matches, and I think that's the thing that's kind of bugging me a little bit, is that they're using promos instead of having like HBK and Bret Hart kind of having spats actually at the shows, they're just having these little like video promotions. It's not doing anything for me.
Yeah, I agree. That said, the Nielsen ratings this week, you're going to get a 2.9 for Raw, which is going to be exactly what they had last week, at 2.9. So they stay the same. Nitro, on the other hand, gets a 3.6, which is up from their 3.2 the week before. So Nitro just actually beating Raw back-to-back weeks, putting up some good numbers. And we'll have to see how they do next week, Kyle, because we will be right back here discussing the March 25th, 1996 editions of Nitro and Raw. We'll find out how that uncensored 4-layered tier cake match went, and all the other uncensored matches, and then also discuss the go-home show for Raw and see if they push these everything, these matches, these stories, as we head into the granddaddy of them all. If you haven't subscribed to us yet, we are on iTunes, we are on Google Play. You can always find us there. You can always reach out on our social media accounts. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can always go to MondayNightTours.com for all of our social media, past episodes, the whole ordeal. That's going to be it for us. For Kyle Hoagland, I'm Josh Kaiser, and we will see you next time on the Monday Night Tours.
The C stands for commitment. See you later.